Alright, Shalom. I would like to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Bachakodesh. Double honor to my bishops, apostles, and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom, salutations to the brothers out there pushing the word in sincerity and truth throughout the four corners of the earth, delivering the message to the elect out there to run the race of salvation. Shalom to the elect, which consists of the men, women, and children that have the true, sincere, faithful Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua. Also for the speckled birds, and the ones that have the ears to hear. You know, the speckled birds being the ones that may not look like your average Israelite, you know, the black Negro and Native American so-called speaking those names, but the ones that have the ear to hear, just these words cope with them, or they grasp towards these words, right? Shalom to you, the ones that's looking to make it out of here, you know, to earn the wings of salvation and flee our temptation, Jacob's trouble, and ultimately to flee those thermonuclear missiles, you know, which we all hope for to be delivered by the way of chariot. I'm brother Amaf out of the DC church, coming at you with a quick video. And there's something that was just on my mind. It's like basically the Lord is preparing our minds to like disannul everything on this side. You know, like Paul has said, I count all of this but dumb. Right, because all of this, you know, it says the fashion of this world passeth away, right? And we know that the fashion of this world is changing, damn near every couple months now. You know, everything is, you know, it's being renewed or being reused, and nothing new is coming out. Like the creativity has gone down. And everybody's mimicking everything, saying the same lingo, saying the same stuff. 31. Like, yeah, man, you go to. So we know to constantly cast our burdens upon the Lord, and fight for the truth unto the death, so the Lord could fight for us. This is 1 Corinthians 7:31. It says, I'm gonna start at 29. It says, but this I say, brethren, the time is short. It remaineth that both they that have wives be as though they had none, and they that weep as though they wept not, and they that rejoice as though they rejoice not, they that buy as though they possess not, and they that use this world as not abusing it, for the fashion of this world passeth away. Right? Yeah. So don't abuse this world, because what? You will get entangled. And one thing about those entanglements that is, you know, the flesh is never satisfied. You can never satisfy the flesh. It's always going to want more. And then it turns into a snowball effect to where now you can't stop the momentum. Now Satan has gotten you. Let me just see what this says. It says, but I would have you without carefulness. He that is unmarried care for the things that belong to the Lord, how he might please the Lord. Yeah, and that's the thing. And you know, the next verse is going to basically saying that like someone that's married is going to want to care for the things of their wife, you know, and that's just human nature, you know. And that's why Paul recommended for other Israelite men to be such as himself and not to deal with the woman. You know, he said, don't even touch them. You know, but that's, once again, it's just human nature. Because if you do have a wife, you know, if you burning, you know, go ahead and get down James Brown, so you don't commit, you know, adultery. Because in this world, it's easy to get with a woman that has a man already versus a woman that don't have a man. Ain't that some shit? Go figure. Right? But the whole point of this video is to break up that fellow ground. This is Hosea 10:12. It says, sow to yourselves in righteousness, reap in mercy. Right? We're all looking for mercy. You know, we said we're reaping in, so what we're gathering, you know, we're sowing in ourselves righteousness, and we're reaping in mercy, you know, so we can get mercy. As we get mercy, we show mercy to the ones that need mercy. You know, it says break up the fallow ground. Breaking up those fallow ground is like basically being plantable seeds and within your mind, you know. So this, you can see that this is a mental exercise, a daily, hourly mental exercise for us to prepare our minds for the Lord's return, so our garments could be white as snow. It says, for it is time to seek the Lord till he come and rain righteousness upon you. Yeah, it's time to seek the Lord, you know. It says, turn unto him while he is near. It says, ye have plowed wickedness, ye have reaped iniquity, ye have eaten the fruit of lies, because thou didst trust in thy way, in the multitude of thy mighty men. Yeah, we know that right now, America is a mighty country, whatever the hell that means. You know what I mean? Well, it looks like it's mighty, but it's crumbling within inside itself. You know, it's all made up of a fiat system. It's not backed by any gold, any silver, or anything that's precious that's to the world. So it's eventually they're looking forward for it to crack, but people are unaware of these things. But for the elect's sake, our minds are being broken up. So the Lord is planting us seeds of righteousness to where we're going to be like Lot and don't look back at this place, you know. And we're going to, Lord's will we be saved. It says, therefore shall a tumult arise among thy people, and all the fortresses shall be spoiled. You know, but that was the point. You know, break up the fallow ground. You know, there's gonna be a rise of the people, man, sedition amongst men. Okay, this is another one. This is Jeremiah 4:1. It says, if thou wilt return, O Israel, saith the Lord Yahweh, return to me. And if thou wilt put away thy abominations out of my sight, then shalt thou not remove. You know, because we want to stay in the land, we want to stay in the underneath the shadow of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua's mercy, and not in the shadow of basically judgment. You know, we wanted to have that tawah put on and carry that mark around versus the mark of death, which people love because, you know, wickedness is easier to do than righteousness, you know. But even though it seemed like the laws are grievous and things of that nature at the time when you want to commit your lustful acts, but not knowing that, but you know, the righteous knows, and the ones that are in the know that it's for your benefit. You know, whether the Lord is denying you of a new woman, a particular job that may pay too much, which it could cause you to go astray. It says, verse 2, it says, and thou shalt swear the Lord liveth in truth and judgment and in righteousness, and the nations shall bless themselves in him, and in him shall thy glory. Yep, in him shall they glory. For thus saith the Lord to the men of Judah and Jerusalem, break up the fallow ground and sow not among thorns. Yeah, so sow not among thorns, because the thorns will get ahead and choke you up. You know, and you won't be able to put your roots in there due to, like, hey, you know what's crazy too? You know, that's another thing. It says, what does it say? Sow not among thorns. Dang. You know, with thorns or weeds in general, when I think about like unrighteous deal, like lust, man, just stick with lust, man, because you know, lusting for a woman, lusting for certain foods, or whatever your desire may be. Sometimes those things could be like weeds, man, and they could choke the righteousness out of you, you know. And then when you're fighting to do videos, to pray, to do things that's pleasing to Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. And it's only true, man. You know, that's why this truth, man, that, like I said, if I didn't already say it, like, you see, when you're headed to a storm, you're in a storm, or you're leaving a storm, and majority of the times when that test is given to you, you don't know the answers. Or when you leave the storm, the things are more clear when things settle. And now everything is calm and you're able to judge more clearly. And your understanding is that much greater due to the fact that the storm that you just left. And then the storm we're heading to is the greatest storm that's the greatest storm that's ever about to hit the earth, you know? So, like the scripture says, what man or person you ought to be, you know, as the Lord is constantly constantly showing us the things to do to better ourselves as Israelites, to be a good soldier and endure hardness, right? So he's breaking up our minds daily, putting us through tough, tight situations to where you only rely on Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. We got some more. Hold on, let me just try to knock this off, and then we're gonna get it some others. It says, "But thus saith the Lord Yahweh to men of It says, circumcise yourselves to the Lord Yahweh, and take away the foreskin of your heart, ye men of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem, lest my fury come forth like fire and burn that none can quench it, because of the evil of your doings." Yeah, man, the Lord's going to send some fire to where nobody's going to be able to quench it. His fury, because he's just upset. The Lord said in Psalms that he's angry with the wicked every day. When somebody's angry, they quick to cut cards and cast judgment quick as hell. When somebody's angry and they're just tired of the bullshit, excuses and whatnot. It says, "Declare ye in Judah and publish in Jerusalem, and say, blow ye the trumpet in the land, cry together." It says, "Cry, gather together, and say, assemble yourselves, and let us go into the defense cities. Set up the standard toward Zion, retire, stay not. For I will bring evil from the north and a great destruction. The lion is come up from his thicket. The destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy city shall be laid waste without inhabitants. For this gird you with sackcloth, lament and howl, for the fierce anger of the Lord is not turned back from us." Yeah, man, and this time and time again, man, we see these things that are coming down the pipeline, but our people don't prepare themselves. Over there in Europe, they're protesting for the Digital ID Act and things of that nature, while these Americans are over here lollygagging. And then before someone says something, how come y'all not out there protesting? Because that's not our job. Our job is to go ahead and preach the word to the 12 tribes of Israel, to wake up the elect so they could be sealed. Let me get that, because that's one of my favorites now. Revelation 7. Because that word, that when you go into that definition, sealed, man, it's powerful. I knew something. Tap something by accident. Right? Because this is Revelations 7 verse 3. It says, saying, "Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of the Most High in their foreheads." What was it? Ezekiel, I think 9 and 4. Let me just get it real quick. It's even 9 and 3 or 4. Yes, 4. It says, Ezekiel 9 and 4, it says, "And the Lord Yahweh said unto him, Go to the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark." Right? And that mark is the Wa, which means exempt from judgment. It says, and set we could replace that word with exempt from judgment. It says, set a judgment upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. So only this mark, only people that can receive this mark is the ones that sigh and cry for the abominations that be done in the midst. And that's gonna be the elect. Because the people that's not sighing and crying for the abominations, or if they are sighing and crying, they just crying and sighing because that's just something that this world teaches, programs the people to love oppression. They trust in those things. And I was watching this one podcast or this one interview with this one dude into neuroscience and things of that nature, and how like basically some people are addicted to sadness, like a lot of women they don't know, but they're showing that they like playing the victim, instead of holding themselves accountable. But that's going to be the downfall of a lot of people. Let me see. Oh yeah, there. And I heard the number of them which were sealed. Yeah, but the whole thing is like, yeah. Oh, let me just get this word real quick. This is a powerful word. Try to run through it. Where we're at. We're not that bad. Fucking eyes are burning. So this is the word sealed or sealed.
And Strong's G 4972.
Fraskizo. And in Revelation 7:3 it says to set a seal upon, marked with a seal, to seal for security from Satan. So what? Once they're sealed there, you have a secured security from Satan. It says, since things sealed up are concealed as the content of a letter, to hide, keep from silence, because this letter is only for the elect, out of the nation of Israel, and anything else besides that, you just mark it. It's a mark of death. It says to hide, keep in silence, keep secret. Yeah, this is only. Not everybody could get this. This is a secret letter towards the ones to get the instruction how to navigate to receive salvation, in order to mark a person or a thing, to set a mark upon by the impress of a seal or stamp. When you seal or stamp, back in the day they'll have to put the wax on the paper and they'll have a stamp. They'll put, and they'll seal that letter. So that's only for the elect. That's only for a person who it concerns. It says angels are said to be sealed by the Most High in order to prove. Well, this is another one. It says in order to prove, confirm, or assess a thing. To confirm or I always get this a little mixy. Authenticate, basically it's like a reinsurance, to confirm let me just go like this. To confirm, authenticate, which means it's just like that, that's a true letter, placed beyond doubt. See? And that's the thing, man. That stamp is going to be placed beyond doubt. You ain't going to have no doubt. For the ones that sealed, you ain't going to have no doubt. Hey, the Lord's going to increase our faith as he gets closer and closer. And that's how I believe this. Me speaking as a man, I believe that through your faith and belief, you will receive spiritual powers. Having that, once again, that faith and that belief. You gotta really vividly imagine that. And not just think about this, because Esau Edom is constantly trying to take that away from us. To create more doubt in us. To strip away our confidence. But you got to look at your old past. I'll be like, man, look at the times you've been delivered. Plenty of times, man. When the Lord could have took you out viciously, or even, viciously, swiftly, but he could have took you out. But he didn't. So you're here for a reason. So let your light shine. It says, of a writing, of a written document, to prove one's testimony. So the only way to testify, the only way to give your testimony, you got to testify, which testifying, goes back to holding your family jewels and speaking. It says, to prove one's testimony, which is Yahweh Shai's, to a person that he is what he professes to be. And yeah, we know Yahweh Shai to be the spirit of prophecy, so that's why we keep our eyes on Yahweh Shai, because he will reveal unto his elect uh, the things that's getting ready to be done. What we're gonna get Paul's ministry. Oh yeah, because I was thinking about this, right? So like we're breaking up our fellow grounds, we're praying and fasting, but you need to have an action plan behind that, behind your prayer and fasting, and have the action plan of working to please the Lord. Let me see. I grabbed the NIV on this one. Oh, okay, yeah. I'm gonna start at 3. In 2 Corinthians 10:3, it says, "Though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. As the world does, the weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they are divine power. They have divine power to demolish strongholds." Yeah, so with this truth, as long as you keep digging or you keep fighting, and hanging on in that storm, that you'll be all right. Just hang on, and that's one of the hardest things. It's like you're gonna encounter some turbulence, but just hang on, man, and it all works out in the end. So I always think about the peaceable fruits. It's like no chastisement seem comely, but grievous, but yielded to more peaceable fruits. Hebrews 12, like 10 or around there, also 10 and 12. It says we demolish arguments and every pretentious that set itself against the knowledge of the Most High. And we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Hamashiach. Yeah, so every thought, whether it's good or bad, it's obedient to Yahushua. And if it is an unrighteous thought, to rebuke it swiftly and ask the Lord to strengthen your mind, to strengthen your spirit, because it's going to come regardless. But you have to be strong enough to withstand those negative and evil thoughts. It says, and we will be ready to punish every act of disobedience once your obedience is complete. You are judging by appearance. If anyone is confident that they belong to Hamashiach, they should consider again that we belong to Hamashiach just as much as they do. But the whole point of it was just basically the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. If I'm not mistaken, that's what it says. Let's go ahead and try to get that. 2 Corinthians 10:3, and then the KJV, it says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the power to pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalted themselves against the knowledge of the Most High, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Hamashiach." And that's they breaking them strongholds. The Lord is constantly throwing at us strength to break those strongholds, and not only our strongholds. And as we overachieve and break our strongholds, there's individuals that's behind us or that's watching us. They'll break those strongholds. They'll see the strength and they'll feel encouraged. Just thinking about in the Maccabees. Oh man. Dang. It was I forget the elder's the name, but he basically didn't want to eat pork due to the fact that he was an elderly man, and he had individuals look up to him. So if he was even if he didn't eat the pork, if it made it seem like he ate pork, that there was going to be individuals that will follow suit. So it goes to show you, like, the ones, it's good to being a good example and show the Lord's glory, through your vessel, because the ones that's watching, that you can inspire them through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Romans 7:23, it says, but I see another law at work in me, waging war against the law of my mind and making me a prisoner of the law of sin at work within me. Yeah, but this is the NIV. Let me just do the King James first, and then we'll go back. This is Romans 7:23. It says, "But I see another law in my member, warring against the law of my mind, and bringing me into captivity the law of sin which is in my members." Yeah, so that sin is just within this flesh. It's programmed, or it's in this flesh, and that's where our spirit fights against this flesh, because this flesh, once again, is like a non-stop consuming thing that wants to just eat and receive pleasure. Our spirit doesn't want that. We want to fast and pray and please the Lord. So you see this truth, this thing of ours that we live in is about balance. It says, "O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death?" This body is nothing but death. As soon as you're born, you're born into captivity, and then your body it grows and it starts dying after a certain age. But even when you're born, you start dying. I thank the Most High through Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, our Lord. So then, with me, mind, I myself serve the Lord of the Most High, but with the flesh, the law of sin. See? Hey, man, look. It says, so then, with my mind, I myself serve the law of the Most High, but within my flesh, the law of sin. Because, hey, we have lust, we have desires. We're gonna go off because of those things, and it sucks. Nobody likes sinning. But I thought about this one, and then this will be the last one. This is Luke 21:28. It says, "Then when these things." Let me start with a few verses. This is Luke 21:25. It says the return of Hamashiach. It says, "And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring." Right? That's another thing for like earthquakes. These tsunamis and things of that nature, because a lot of those things come from earthquakes. It says men's hearts filling them for fear, right? Because all of the chaos that's going on and shortage of food, and people truly put their trust in certain things of that nature. "And for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken." Wow. Whew. And if the heavens are being shaken, what's going on with the earth? It says the earth shall rear to and fro as a drunkard. What could make the earth do such a thing? "And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh." So that's the whole point, is our breaking up our fellow grounds, our minds, because the Lord gives us the tools to do these things. Just have to be meek and willing to work on your mind, so the Lord could present to you more understanding, with knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and to receive more profit, and watch out for prophecy, because the Lord's going to come as a thief in the night, a thief in the night. So, but He's going to give us the green light to be cock, lock, and ready. So with that, I hope you was prayed. I hope and pray that you was edified, exhorted, and motivated to seek the Lord 10 times more. I want to give all praises, honor, glory to Yahweh, Bashim Yahushua, Bashim Kavadash. Double honors to my bishops, apostles, and elders in Brent Millstone, who are well. Shalom, salutations to brothers out there pushing the words of sincerity and truth, and shalom to the elect. Shalom.